Well, I was that overachieving athlete that just loved playing sport. Played 3 different sports in high school, and I was okay in all of them, but not exceptional in any. But my high school football coach, he captured my heart. And I performed at the highest level possible every day I was around him. I cannot tell you why, I just know that I wanted to play and practiced as well as I could for him. In my college years, I knew I wanted to coach as my career because of the impact that Mike Corbett, my high school football coach, had on me. I remember telling my college academic advisor I wanted to coach, and she told me there was no such major like this. Just like so many other coaches before me, I became a physical education major. I wanted the athletes to play as hard for me as I did for Coach Corbett. I remember how much we enjoyed as athletes being around each other with Coach. Even away from the game, not knowing any strategies to do, I remember I came up with this idea of having my basketball kids that first year that I coached spend the night in the gym prior to the first home basketball game. And that's when it hit me for the first time. With 12 pairs of eyes looking directly at me, I understood that they would believe anything I was about to tell them. I'd already told them that spending the night on the basketball floor somehow would make them a better basketball team. To this day, I'm not sure what I shared, but the memory of that impact and that influence that I had as a coach at that moment was undeniable. You know, you would think that would be enough to create my coaching narrative. But even after being a high school coach and college coach, I began to want more. My problem was I could not define what more meant. So I left coaching and began to follow more of a sport administrative route, and I was good at it. It led our family to move to Central Florida and become part of the Disney sports tourism market. I was making more money, traveling literally throughout the world, and all the time I was just missing being a coach. As I was about to close a major contract involving Olympic teams in the Disney Sports Complex in Orlando, the contract fell through. And I was released from the contract that I had with Disney. I was 40 years of age, across the ocean, and the only thing I could do was call my wife back in Central Florida and tell her that I just lost my job. You know what my wife said? Listen, you know you married well when your spouse will tell you exactly what you need to hear when you don't want to hear it. She said to me, "You come on home." What happened to that guy that I married that loved being a high school coach? And after coming home, I began to reflect on my desire to coach and why did I leave it? I even remember one morning getting up real early and going out in my driveway and just laying down and just crying my eyes out, just asking this simple question: why? And this began the eternal quest to discover what is the best coaching methodology. No longer was I asking what or where or when or how, but one simple question: why? It was only a few days later that I received a call from a local principal wanting me to be a part of an interview team to help find a new football coach for the local new high school being built. It was interesting because I was now looking at coaching differently, and I wanted them to define their why. It was during this process that I found a coach applying for this coaching position that I had known earlier, but I knew this about him. He had no clue about his why either. But let me tell you, he could win. He had a great winning record. I don't know why, but I called him and to discuss this new job and wanted to talk about the frustrations that he had as a coach related to players and parents and even his own wife and children. I remember his comments were this. He says, "I can win football games, but it's everything else that's frustrating me and causing me to lose the joy of coaching." After that call, he and I met one Saturday morning, and I'll never forget sitting down with him. And I had the best coaching clinic I have ever had. You see, I've been to 1,000 clinics, but never had the discussion he and I both had that day. That's when he stated, if I ever get a head job again, I'm going to do it right. And the two of us began to discuss what it would mean to do it right. He ended up getting the job at this new public high school, and guess who his first hire was? It was me. He hired me to be his offensive coordinator. And for the next decade or so, we had a blast by just asking ourselves in every decision we made on and off the field this very simple question: why? And it changed everything. We began to see players and parents, coaches and administrators in a different light, and to try to come up with strategies to engage and enhance them all. It was during this time that I went back to Florida State University, and for the next 7 years I worked on my doctoral degree. I began to look at the research into best coaching practices. And it was during this time that I realized that coaches that coach in 3 dimensions seem to have athletes that play well, relationships that are enhanced, lifelong learning, and a personal sense of well-being as a coach. And I titled it 3-Dimensional Coaching. The really cool thing now is I get to teach this as an undergraduate and graduate coaching specialization degree at the University of Central Florida. I also get to travel and share this information and methodology with coaches and administrators around the world. And most importantly, I'm back in coaching and loving it. Literally.